in Revelation, the final book describing the ultimate history of mankind, it says that before the end of times, it's a figurative phrase, demons will be released from hell. There will be hell throughout the world, yet there will be peace within the monasteries, for example, even while the world is in hell. And we are seeing that right now. In my ministry, I have to deal with people, a huge number of people, really huge, who are going through all sorts of terrors, paranoia, a state that's either close to schizophrenia or actual schizophrenia. Though I don't like that word and I'm afraid of it, because if you read the definition of schizophrenia, then there's no such thing as a non-schizophrenic. We're all schizophrenics then, if you read the definition of what that is. However, we must always keep in mind that we do not exist in a complete vacuum. I shall quote from the Holy Scripture now. Satan, like a prowling lion, walks about us, roaring, constantly seeking whom he may devour. He can even manifest himself in the form of an angel of light, intending to destroy even the very chosen ones. These are the solemn words found within the Bible. Therefore, we can easily drive ourselves to madness with these dark thoughts and paralyzing fears. Breaking our own psyche. And that's when a demon steps in. He doesn't know our thoughts, but having studied humans for centuries and millennia, he can easily tell a lot about us just from our facial expressions, our micro expressions, our gait, the tone of our voice, anything. And so he'll start driving the fearful and paranoid even harder. And for me, this is a question, not an answer, but a question. I see many start with paranoia, fears, and hysterics, and it ends in straight-up demonic possession. They give themselves over to the demon, driving themselves right into the demons, into its jaws. And then they become incompetent. Then the psyche just goes completely. That's what the demon wants. Well, if you let everything go, the final result is to drag you down to hell. Many individuals in that state of mind have laid hands upon themselves, choosing to commit suicide. Just recently, I had to speak with a person who told me he felt he was being called to the window, literally called to the window. It was only the first floor, I suppose, but what if it had been much higher up? There is a second case I was informed about recently, one of the most recent ones to occur. He threw himself out of the window of a moving train because he heard voices telling him. They were telling him, he could hear them. A drone is heading straight for your carriage. You must run immediately. And so it goes on. These voices, these visions, those are the final stages. The initial stage, first living entirely without God, not having any solid foundation in your life, losing a great deal, falling into a state that feels like being in a vacuum, devoid of any support or inner strength. It all starts with that. A godless lifestyle makes a person lose the ground beneath their feet. A person starts to get lost, confused, frantic, and then the nerves go, and then the demon connects. So at what stage? If there are already visions, that's already demonic. There's no way, but the person is a believer. No, let's drop the word believer. He reached out to us for help. Which I'm talking about this. We have plenty of believers. But believers in what? I'm saying now that faith doesn't exist. Ask an Orthodox person who knows that there's no such thing as faith. The vast majority believe in faith. I'm saying now, for example, that you should rebuke with love, starting with yourself. Who among us does that? And now, let's keep talking. How is it with us? I've quoted the words of George the Jordanian. He says, we are not Russians. That is, Russians, in their understanding, are false Christians. What believers? Believers in what? You have to ask what they believe in. They've put a mask on God and believe in a non-existent God, while they don't know the existing one. No, that doesn't mean anything yet. Believers means nothing. And they take communion without knowing why. For example, Scripture says you can take communion to your destruction or to sickness and death if you take it, for instance, in a state of mortal sin and with a grudge against someone. I know plenty of people who take communion while harboring malice and resentment toward each other. Well, no, that means nothing. On the contrary, it will only serve to bring greater condemnation. So, my dear ones, if there are already voices and visions, that's it. That's just pure demonic possession. I feel sorry for such a person. By the way, as I've noted with others, this doesn't happen from the outside like an assault. There's a reason for it inside the person. On one particular day, we decided to pay a special visit to two very lonely elderly gentlemen, and we discovered that both of them were well over 80 years of age. One of them is, before we even, he calls and says, Igak, you're obligated to come, you have no right not to. Get here fast, I'm a war veteran. You owe me for the rest of your lives. Okay. Well, we would have come even without those words. We arrived. He had Astafyev's books. I said, I took a book from him and read it. It says there he was a child of the war. He's no veteran. First of all, he's lying second in his house. He says, we went in, and there was a stench and filth. And he kept demanding something, saying something. We couldn't make sense of any of it. He called us 5 or 6 times a day. Now that's a client for the devil, already ripe. Okay, you can do whatever you want with someone like that. We went to the second one. He says on the first day he started working. He says also 80-something years old with a bunch of illnesses. He's only alive because he has an artificial heart pump. We arrived. He says his place was tidy, a sweet little dog. He says we arrived and he kept apologizing. Forgive me, I know you're busy. Sorry. Can I at least give you a box of chocolates as a gift for bothering you? Do you feel it? They are two different people. And both the first and the second one chose to make themselves that way. Yeah, we reap what we sow. In the early church, for example, a person possessed by a demonic force was not given communion. Church rules the nomocanons. Now, if there's any weirdness, they start by pushing them to take communion. And priests, unfortunately, say this too. In the early church, they didn't give communion and explained why. If you've become possessed by Satan, by demons, then how did you attract the demons to yourself? What were you doing or are you doing that made them love you so much? Can you hear that? From which direction is it? Yesubusa, this is what we need to remember. We're always blaming someone else for the cause of our problems and wanting to find easy ways out. The cause is within us, and there are no easy ways. But if our own dear loved ones are suffering from such a sickness, what are we to do? We must care for them with all the love and prayer that we can possibly muster to the best of our ability. That much is perfectly clear. There is no doubt about it.